Evo, kao što se vidi, 1. maj 99. godine. Još samo 7 mjeseci do 2000. godine, a mi smo u ratu, možete misliti. I došli iz Beograda da vidimo decu.
Pa moj kraj je u suštini onako jedan lep i miran kraj, pun sportskih dešavanja. Oko naše zgrade je teren, tu su parkovi, igrala sam se sa decom po ceo dan, nije bilo bitno da li se poznajemo, da li nam se roditelji poznaju. Ali u jednom momentu došlo je do onog strašnog događaja, 99. Tad sam ja imala 3 godine i sve se izdešavalo jako brzo. Naravno, ja tada nisam znala ni šta se dešava, meni je to sve bilo kao igra, mene su roditelji poslali na selo, odnosno i mene i mog brata, koji je stariji od mene 4 godine. On je otišao u jedno selo, a ja u drugo selo.
Dobro, viši je mnogo.
Ja i Strahinja.
Bravo. Ana, šta ti gledaš?
Treći je u se.
Je li, Ana?
I ništa, tako, mi smo se tamo igrali, pevali smo. Nismo znali šta se uopšte dešava, ali ja sam nekako bezbrižno prošla taj period. I tek sada, kad sam starija, kada slušam priče starijih, onda shvatam koliko sam ja u stvari u tom momentu bila zaštićena od svega time što sam otišla na selo, jer ima dece koje su ostajala ovdje.
Moj prvi dan škole u 1. razredu, ja sam bila viša od pola odeljenja i imam svog druga Peru koga znam ceo život i živjeli smo u istoj zgradi i posle smo krenuli da idemo zajedno u odeljenje. I moja mama mi je rekla, kad sam ja kretala u školu, mi je rekla čuvaj Peru, šta god to značilo. Ja stvarno ne znam šta je ona mislila po tim, sem da kao ja sam viša možda ili kao on je možda osjetljiviji, ja stvarno ne znam. I ja sam to baš ozbiljno shvatila i došli smo u školu i njega je naš drugar jedan krenuo nešto da zeza, ali baš prijateljski, nije uopšte to da bude bezobrazan. I ja sam njega nokautirala praktično, znači šutnula sam ga tako da je pao i da, to je bio moj prvi dan, Pera je bio potpuno zbunjen šta radim, ja sam bila u fazonu da, on je bio bezobrazan prema tebi, u stvari su se samo zezali, tako da to je jedno od simpatičnih sećanja.
Imala sam 6 godina kada je baka umrla, ali smo bile bako jako vezane. Oni su isto tu kod hrama živeli. I pošto su oni, mislim, bili poprilično mladi, baka i deka, pa su bili nekako moderni. I baka mi je sve davala da radim, bukvalno. Onda mi je najbolje sećanje, ona mene stavi na sto kuhinski, kao da ja tu sedim, pošto mi to mama nikad nije dala. I da mi ovako, napravi mi od brašna i vode kao testo i ovako mi stavi na sto i da mi bukvalno da ja radim s tim šta god hoću. Ja to bacam po kući, razmažem se cela, mama dolazi i ne može da veruje šta mi je dala. I to mi je bilo najveća sreća bukvalno, kada mesim to testo koje mi baka da.
Sjećam iz tog perasta da smo mi svaki dan trčale kući sa plaže da crtamo. Jesi se sjećaš igru crtanja?
Da, i čep futbol.
Da, to sam skroz zaboravila, ali crtanja se sećam. I sećam se da to nam je bio zajednički jezik, jer ni ti nisi znala srpski, ni ja engleski. Dobro, ja i sad slabo pričam engleski. Ali crtale smo i onda je bila poenta da se preko tog crtanja sporazumevamo. I kad ste vi odlazili iz Perasta, ja sam plakala 2 dana. Bilo mi je to baš tužno, baš sam se osjetila usamljena. I baš ste mi ulepšali to letovanje u Perastu.
Sećam se da sa nekih možda 2 godine igrao sam se napolju. Moj otac tad bio na ratištu u Hrvatskoj. I to je jedna slika koju bukvalno nikad neću zaboraviti. Gde me majka zove i ja onako dotrčavam s polja, ulazim u kuću i vidim neke čizme. Tad nisam znao da su vojničke čizme, tad sam mislio da su čizme. Penjem se na sprat, ulazim u dnevnu sobu i na krevetu sedi čovek sa bradom, čupav, crn. Ja se u tom trenutku uplašio i sakrio iza zavese, bio sam baš mali. Dok u sljedećem trenutku nisam čuo svog oca kako mi kaže: ej, Aleksa, ja sam.
Pričam anđelima li Priče mi na tebe, kako nisam sreo miliju od tebe, i da ne postoji na svijetu sila jača nego što je naša ljubav bila. Drugačiji smo u Srbiji zato što baš zato što su naši roditelji živeli u Jugoslaviji, a mi živimo u Srbiji.
Vlada velika nostalgija čak i među ljudima i mladima koji nisu živeli u to doba. Mislim da je to povezano sa porodicom, ako su vam roditelji preneli, ne znam, tu kulturu, muziku i način življenja. Zato je i dalje vlada ta jugonostalgija, ali ta nostalgija se vezuje najviše za neke dobre stvari.
Trenutno u momentu ja sam Srpkinja, ali u mojoj glavi ja se osvrćem na Jugoslaviju i ako se ne sjećam, ako ne znam, nikad nisam bila živa dok je bila Jugoslavija, ja nekako osjećam koliko je to bilo koliko je bila jaka država i kažem ti, vezujem sebe za Balkan ceo. Potpuno se osjećam, kažem ti, osjećam pripadnost, mi možemo totalno se zezamo, Hrvat, Bosanac i ja, da se nađemo, da nam bude super, slušamo sličnu muziku, slične fore, slična istorija, slični vicevi, mislim, potpuno imamo 1000 stvari zajedničke, tako da ja i dalje nisam baš svesna svega.
U principu, taj period mi je jedan od najlepših koje se sećam. Iako je kao bilo sve posle rata i bombardovanja, mi smo bili mali pa nismo ni mogli u principu da shvatimo šta se dešava i onda nam je taj period samo bio mnogo lep.
Prosto život je takav da sve mora da se prođe, da se oseti i da se nastavi dalje, da izađeš jači iz svega toga. Tako da, u suštini, detinjstvo kao detinjstvo mi je bilo jako srećno i zanimljivo, ako zanemarimo par meseci trauma koje smo svi mi imali. Mi deca, šta smo mi znali?
Δείχνε κρογότε τη μουσάμα τη δολή. Πανч μπέμπια σοκόλα.
What? What not coming today? Yesterday coming?
Is it, would you say Little Christy?
Yeah.
And,
Little Christy and Big Christy. Yes. Take the picture. Masenzir dahan buk. Iki mo, kito. Amita, ahoje ta se Christine. No, Amita.
Chrissy, then Nana, then Chrissy. The other Chrissy.
Ta si e ndjen veten? Tani e ndje veten në siklet, po u e kam fëmijë, e kam timin edhe për të, për shembull, më donem sa të bëj sa më të mirën si prind. Se u këtë fëmijë kam në përgjithësi.
It's the only child for the family. Christy is the only child in the family.
Kam pasur mundësi për të tjerë, kanë qenë pse smurë, na kanë vdekur të dy të tjerë. Po tani edhe fondacioni na ndihmon jashtë masë neve që mua ma mirëmban për shembull Kristin edhe u si prind do të sa të ketë jetën ai.
Най, видите мотря. Eu que eu vi, eu ia moto. Ma pensi, vedi un'idea se ci mai una cosa per noi che cuida.
Hi.
So as you see, it's very poor place.
Yeah.
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 You can feel
It's
it
okay.
all over, yes. And the walls. And don't forget it is a rented place.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not theirs. Yes, yes, it is rented.
Wow.
Yeah. And there are 5 children. And Biolta is not going to work because she takes care for the youngest ones. Yeah. Yeah. Çfarë do ju a bërë supën sot?
Mora kokën dhe borë, se të uta, se e di kjeri të poshtë. Lori, të borë.
Ku dilem vi ka këllë unë jakë? Dy ua bëj kështu bukë, janë i petu, janë gjë. Janë i petu, dhe u bështë në pjesë petu. Si të do bështë janë 3 vakë. Shko bli unë me një banarian.
I kemi thënë në Aragoja, nuk vi.
Sa ditë
Do vim sot, do vim ne. Ka një muaj që kemi thënë.
S'ke qenë dakord. Ja, mësu se jeti aty në shkoketu. Me brikë. Ju pafshim. Eridion.
Nisa?
Mama yet?
No.
Sunflower seeds. You might have it.
Oj!
I'll pay you in hospitality.
Thank you.
Monda bakes bread in there, it's amazing.
Do you? Oh, amazing. Thank you.
We are going to visit the house of Willy Mucho. Willy Mucho is part of the Roma community actually, but fairly independent person. He lives on gathering leaves. At least he did until about 6 months ago, I think. He has been sick, so he's not working as much since then. Let's go visit. Uzdana! They seem to be busy. Children are in school. And they've got a key. Olive tree sage.
Okay.
Mountain tea. Chamomile.
Nice.
So yeah, he had a fairly wide variety of things that he would collect. He tells us one day that he needs a food package because he's got nothing to eat right now because his leaves went moldy. I didn't even have something to eat, you know. They gave us money to buy something.
That's so good.
Yeah. So in this Ruth has helped. And the Hope for Life Foundation in England is planted right now. These days, rosemary can be planted fairly easy. You just stick it in the ground in a good time and pour a lot of water so it stays wet. And hopefully by next spring they'll get quite big.
Cool.
Mira, si te camo. Mira, mori mali.
Hello, Sebastian.
Sebastian, my bravo, Sebastian.
Your brother? Oh, no way.
Five of them living in here, two of them being grandkids.
Wow.
So my recollection is that some people used to live in areas just curtained off.
Wow.
He has been here for 40 years, a teacher in this village or in this school.
Ali, spróbujemy się, jak wyjmę deszczu, to daj morę na to, aby... Ty do szkoły? Na, kam? Jep.
Hi. I'm just sorting myself out.
No worries.
Oh yes, just a sec.
It's okay.
Right. Right. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
What is your earliest memory of like grandma and granddad? If you can't remember it, what is like one of your favourite memories of one of them or both of them?
I mean, I'm old, so I've got lots of them.
Well, obviously I've got memories of them and stuff, but it's just, you know, all bits and pieces that I couldn't tell you what age I was or anything like that.
Obviously, I've got a few memories there, but I don't know what order they go in.
I don't know, to be fair.
But earliest memories would probably be like well, I like semi remember this.
Oh, I'm trying to think what to just start with, because basically I've been having a few conversations with my siblings over the weekend.
Going to Blockbusters and renting Little Mermaid.
No, we went to buy or rent.
Yeah.
A copy of it. Oh, I see.
I must have been about 4, and Grandma took me to the Blockbusters round the corner from the Quick Market in Colville. But a little Blockbusters or a video store down the side, and we used to go rent movies there whenever Grandma came up to stay. And yeah, Little Mermaid, I remember very, very clearly going and getting it. Maybe it's Grandma that got me obsessed with Disney, because she just used to make me watch all the Disney films.
She's come to the conclusion that you're the reason why she's obsessed with Disney.
It's all my fault, is it?
Oh, bloody hell, I forgot about the pantomimes.
How did you forget about the pantomimes?
I don't know, you've been to loads of them.
Oh, I forgot all about the pantomime.
Really?
I do remember, it would have been Adam, I suppose. Adam?
Obviously, obviously the pantomime every Christmas as well, we go to. You know,
Yeah.
Grandma would take her own pop and sweets and smuggle them in, and
They're crying because it was too dark and he wanted to wanted to leave, and I sort of said,
like
you
he's
can't,
scared.
you can't go. You've got to stay and stick it out, but it will get better.
And then she also had that secret garden bit at the end of her garden.
Oh,
Before
yeah.
they chopped all the trees down, we used to hide in there.
The secret garden.
Obviously, getting told we weren't allowed to go right at the end of the garden into the tree line at the time, because the trees hadn't been cut down at the time, and Grandma would always get mad if we went down there by ourselves.
Down the back, right down the back. Oh yeah.
They're calling it the secret garden.
The
They're
secret
basically
garden.
saying how obviously we weren't really allowed in there, were we?
We didn't think it was out of bounds because obviously it was kind of. But we used to be like, don't play in that bit.
See, I just remember that we always used to get told off if we were in there.
Me telling you off? Why did I say, come on out of there? I know at one time we were growing vegetables and that. So perhaps you didn't know a difference between a vegetable and a weed sort of thing. And I had to say, get off those. We're going to eat those another day.
She'd have the heron in the hallway, the little pull cord.
Oh, is it a heron? I thought it was a dog.
You know, the bird.
The bird?
The bird and they're also trying to reach that duck. You know, you walk in and then your grandma's got that polly duck. It was all so small back then.
Wooden bird thing in the hallway by the stair that you pull down and flap.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the seagull.
Yeah. Oh, is it a seagull?
Yeah.
No one knows what bird it is.
When I was always little, because I wasn't like tall, I could never reach it, so I'd always have to like stand and lean forward.
Just hanging over the banister, like trying to pull it.
Yeah, that came from France actually.
Oh, did it?
Because I said to Dad, "Oh, you child," and he said, "I like it. I brought it front in France, and I like it, so I'm buying it."
Like I said, going down in the morning, every morning at breakfast time, Grandad would always be sat at the table.
They always finish breakfast with ginger biscuits.
Obviously, Grandad would feed the dogs biscuits, like digestives and stuff.
And then he'd say something to them in French. But I can't remember what, but he would always say something to them in French. It basically was along the lines of, there you go, there's your treat, that's it, you're done for today, sort of thing.
Yaki dabo peep Danielle.
What does that mean?
I don't think it means exactly what he says it is, but he reckons it's Welsh, and it means sort of that's all finished.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's Welsh. It isn't French.
Well, it's not French, no.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's proper Welsh either.
Oh, okay. It's made up Welsh.
It just shows you how everybody's got different memories, haven't they?
Yeah. Would you say that they've had an impact on your life?
Oh yeah, like
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially with your work life.
Grandad's always like, yeah, I don't know, I can't really explain it.
Well, yeah, of course so. It's like, obviously, Grandad was always, to me, that obviously main sort of man in the family.
Like, obviously, I know you're very into French.
Yeah.
And I assume it's because of them.
Them knowing fluently, and like Grandma giving me like books.
Could you tell me about Grandad?
He was very clever at school, and he took his final exams a year early. Headmaster said he should go to uni, but his dad said no, he'd got to go and find a job. So he started working in the offices of the gas board. He played basketball and became a national referee. And in the summer, he played cricket. He spent his national service in the RAF, stationed in Egypt for a while, and he wanted to be a pilot, but found he was colourblind. After the gas board, he worked in an upmarket car showroom in Piccadilly. He fell out with his boss. I don't know what it was over, but the boss threw a telephone at him.
Oh, okay.
And I put, so he left, never to return. He had an interview with an Abbey National, and the person that interviewed him said he realised that there was animosity between when they left, because he didn't get a very good reference. Apparently, I don't think it was worthwhile. So he said that he realised it was written in temper, sort of thing, and so that he would ignore what his former boss had said about him. So anyway, he got the job, and he had to go on a course to see if it was, he was okay for it. And then he had to go and do 3 years to get his qualifications. And he had to do this by a correspondence course, because we were then in Ipswich and there weren't any colleges or anything like that were doing his subjects that he was taking.
Okay.
And then he made steady progress throughout the term, and was soon promoted several times, finishing up as a general manager for several departments in the Abbey National. He gradually progressed up the ladder from his beginnings, which if he'd have listened to the chap that threw the phone at him, he wouldn't have got anywhere.
You know, my first thought of when I do something is oh, would it make Grandad proud, and would I email him about it? If that makes sense.
Obviously, I know there's certain things that I do that I know that I think oh, come on, I'm going to be happy I'm doing this, because they've been together. Well, I say they would have been together
60 years, I think, last
Yeah.
year.
That's always in the back of your mind. So that's kind of what you want.
But they have had the biggest impact. Everything you see that we do, you can see Grandma and Grandad in Mum. You can see Grandma and Grandad in all of us. Even Tabitha, who didn't know Grandma and Grandad as long. You can see Grandma and Grandad in all of us.
I originally wanted to make this documentary about my granddad. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19 and the lockdown situation, I couldn't visit my grandma to do so. I wanted to be able to talk to my grandma in person about everything to do with my granddad, as well as look through all of the photos from when he was in Egypt and when those guys were in France. I just wanted to capture everything that was symbolic to him. During lockdown, it's really made me sit and think about how important spending time with family and friends really is. Doing these conversations with my siblings and my grandma, it made me realise that I didn't just want to make this documentary about my granddad, but about my grandma too.
Cool, recording.
Hello, welcome to the second part of the In-Cahoots mini screening, and followed by a Q&A/discussion with the filmmakers and artists from the filmmaking course at MMU. This week we are following on from narrative that we had last week, and this week we are focusing on documentary and the filmmakers who have been creating documentary for their final piece at the university. Today we have with us Megan, who's a director of Bleeders, with her producer Matilda. We also have Britt, Sophia, and Seb, who have also created other documentaries that have all been seen in the screening before. We are also with Ben, who is one of our tutors on the course, and he's here to just chip in and tell us to be quiet when we need to. So yeah, I'm just going to get everyone to say hi, say who they are and what the film is about. Should we start with Seb?
Hi, I'm Seb. I am one of two of the people that created Tongjat Yeta. It's basically a really raw observational documentary that I had no intention of making into a film from a trip to Albania last summer.
Sophia?
I made Chasing Strays. Matt Johnston was my cinematographer and Joe Darley was a sound designer. And it's basically a bit of an experimental documentary about the post-war generation growing up in Belgrade, Serbia.
Bridget?
Hi, I'm Bridget. I made the documentary Seagull. It's like a self-made documentary, so I did everything on it. But it's basically just about, it's a conversation with myself and my 6 siblings about how our grandparents impacted our lives growing up.
And last but not least, Megan and Matilda.
Do you want to say? Well, hi,
I'm Megan.
I'm Matilda. Me and Megan created Bleeders together, but technically Megan's the director and I was the producer on it. Bleeders is a documentary about periods and a conversation about menstruation and trying to break down the taboos surrounding them with anyone that has to deal with menstruation and periods.
Awesome. So obviously we've just watched some of the films then, well, all of the films. I've watched them and I've got some questions and things I'm interested about. I guess we can just have a discussion from there and see where it goes. So yeah, I'm going to start with Sophia first of all. I really enjoyed the film. It was something that I don't know much about, so it was nice to see knowledge more on a personal level. And the way you'd filmed it and created the piece, I felt that real like personal value to the piece that you created. I'm really interested in the animations and stuff like that because I initially in the R&D department part of the year, which is like before Christmas, I watched you drawing loads of stuff. And I was really interested to see how that turned out. So could you just talk about some of like the methods behind it all and where it came from and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. So I've never animated before this 3rd year. So for my R&D research and development, I wanted to start playing around with it. I actually got some advice off Megan Cooper because she's done it before. So basically I was drawing each frame and there was normally about 20 to 50 frames and then colouring in each frame by hand and then putting it into Premiere Pro and putting them all in like 2-second clips. And it took ages and all you kind of get is a little like GIF type thing. And they look kind of messy and they look kind of childlike, but for the purpose of my projects that worked really well just because I was looking into a lot of like childhood memories. So the style of animation actually suited that quite well. And then I actually moved on to drawing them on an iPad over lockdown because I didn't have a photocopier printer, which actually like sped it up massively. So that's why the animations in the Chasing Strays film actually look quite different to the ones from R&D, just because they're slightly more polished, they're a little bit less hand drawn, but I don't think I lost that like childhood nostalgic effect from them. So yeah.
That's really interesting that you've had to change the method of how you create the animations, but you were able to adapt to it and actually find a way of making them like cleaner and more.
I was really lucky to have like my dad let me borrow his iPad, which was just like a bit of a lifesaver. Otherwise, I couldn't have done the animations, which are pretty pivotal for the film. So
definitely sure.
Just quickly to add there, I was just interested in because you did the animations. You learned how to animate, in R&D. I was just interested, did you know before you started making the final film that the animation would be a really key part of it? And as the film progressed, did you feel like they were becoming more a part of it or more essential? Just thinking to a period where it was, you might not have been able to complete them, moving over to digital. At that point, how integral had they become to the film? And when did you decide that? Was it really early on?
Yeah, I mean, I knew after the R&D, after I made that short 5-minute film about Campbelltown in Scotland, that the animations were going to be the character of the film almost, as in like that was where people, when they watch it, they're always like, oh, the animations. So, and by a certain point when I was panicking about, oh no, I don't have access to the printing equipment and photocopying equipment at uni, that was like one of the biggest, like for me, for lockdown, it was like, oh, I'm gonna have to sort of change it quite drastically, because at that point the animations had become the like symbol of like these childhood memories, and this like feeling of naivety and stuff was like in the animations, or at least they had become in my development. So I think without them at that point, it would have been a completely different film to what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, again, it was a really enjoyable film. I love at the end of the credits how you would use the like home clips of everyone who was in the film.
Yeah,
I could get in a Power Ranger suit was just the best part about it. I'm going to move on. I'm going to speak to Megan and Matilda now. So Matilda's the producer and Megan is the director of Bleeders. We've only been able to see some photos from the interviews, am I right to say, of some of the people we're talking to about the project. I personally, I've been sat with you throughout the year, so I've listening to you two about it constantly, which has been fantastic and so interesting. But I think for everyone else, I think we just want to know more about it and where it's come from, where it stemmed from, and how it's progressed to what the original plan was to where all the way to filming it, basically.
Well, it started as like a one night. We knew we wanted to make like a documentary together, because obviously me and Matilda are best friends. We've been, best friends since the start. So we knew we wanted to work together, and we wanted to make something that, I don't know, like really stood out, and about like life right now. And we didn't know what we were going to do at first. So we were sat one night over like some dinner, and we were having some red wine, and we just started talking about like really funny like stories when we were younger, because obviously we didn't know each other back then. And I just came out with like this embarrassing period story, and then we like looked at each other and were like, that's not embarrassing, like why should it be embarrassing? And we were like, laughing about it. So I think that's where it started.
Definitely.
Yeah. Funny period story.
Yeah. And then it kind of, we went on quite a turbulent kind of trajectory with a lot of meetings with Lauren, who was both of our personal tutors, and a lot of conversations with everyone who was on the third floor about kind of where we were heading with the project. We knew that we wanted it be based around interviews with different people. We were also very aware of the fact that we wanted it to be very inclusive, because it's not just women that have to deal with menstruation. We wanted to have a range of people in the film. But it kind of started as maybe this kind of like following 3 different people of 3 generations around, like how their period had affected them. And then we were kind of like, that's not really what we wanted to do. It kind of lost this. For our research film, we kind of did this quite makeshift, like pink background on the wall. We like stuck loads of roses on it. We had like loads of our friends come in, and some people separately that we'd like cast for. They're doing like street casting. And then we showed Lauren that, and Lauren was like, even though this isn't like the finished project, this is like the not like the energy of the film, but the essence of the film, and what's important about it. And we kind of lost that. So then when it came to kind of developing to what we were going to do for our major film, which we managed to do the interviews, I remember Meg like running down the stairs being like, I've got it. It's going to be set on a toilet. They're going to be sat around flowers, and it's going to be great. And I was like, right, okay, well, I need now to find a toilet. I spent months of my life trying to locate toilets. In the end, my granddad drove me to like this house in like the middle of the countryside, like up north. And we got there, and this guy was like, oh, so what are you using it for? And I was like, oh, it's a documentary about periods. And he was like, well, enough said. You can take the toilet now and go on your way. I was like, right, okay, you're clearly not our demographic here, but that's kind of where we were at. And then lockdown hit. We'd shot all the interviews. I think we were some of the last people to shoot. Originally, we wanted to film really early, just because we knew that we did 5 interviews, and each one of those was about 20 minutes. So we had about an hour and a half worth of footage that we'd have to sift through, choose the best parts, and like, this is like our child, we were like, how are we going to do it? We've got so much to cut down on. And then obviously lockdown hit. We had a second half of the film that we never got to shoot. So that's kind of where we're up to now. We've got all of this incredible, interview footage. another problem is, as well, is I'm down in London, Megan's up in Sheffield, so we've kind of got this distance barrier when it came to Megan edited the film with the hand-in that we did for the actual degree. You know, we were having to send files backwards and forwards on Frame.io. It was quite stressful, obviously, because everyone's life had just gone into this kind of like chaos, and trying to be creative. That's why I've got so much admiration for anyone that made a film during lockdown, because I know for myself I struggled, because I'd kind of come from this point of being like the most creative and most productive that I'd ever been at uni, and like doing something that I was super passionate about. Me and Meg were working really, really hard. You know, everyone was working really hard, and then it was just like nothing all of a sudden. So yeah, I don't know, Meg, you want to talk more a little bit about the people that we had in the film and like how we went about?
So obviously, because it's documentary, you know, no one's getting paid to be in your film, like not even with like a certain amount of budget. It's all going to be people that genuinely want to be in your documentary and like are passionate about the subject matter to be a part of it. So, you know, we posted this poster, we did on like Facebook group chats, like pages, we did, you know, if friends could pass it around. We did it on his Instagram page because Bleeders from R&D actually had quite like a bit of exposure. So we had quite a few followers. So we would, you know, just help. Yeah, it helped a lot, because obviously it's quite an intimate subject, and not a lot of people will want to talk about this. So we had a lot of people email us, you know, saying we really want to be in it, and then they wouldn't reply, or yeah, we just got a lot of things off like the Fallowfield group chat, you know, Fallowfield group page. Yeah, we posted it on there, and someone replied and was like, "Oh, you forgot to mention that you were man-hating feminists." I was like, "Thank you, brilliant."
We were like, yes, at least people are looking at it, but you know.
Yeah, at least people are seeing it. But
to get people in it was quite a strange thing when we did that casting call.
The motive that you had from the start, and I think at the start you mentioned about how you were kind of both like laughing about the subject together in your personal stories, and I think with that motive of trying to get rid of this like this like very awkward stigma around talking about things like periods and making it more into a light-hearted and being open about it. I think with that strive, it's the reason why you've got the voice that you've got through the Instagram page and things like that, and people coming over, because it's a fantastic topic and it needs to be spoke about more. So I really hope that it gets finished, like, and I really hope to see it, and I know it will. It will take its time, but yeah, I am going to have to move on though, if that's all right.
We'll talk for a long time, but you know.
I'm going to talk to Seb next. So I remember correctly that this wasn't the project that you were originally going to be making for your final film. You actually went on this trip in your own time, and I'm really interested in how you've gone about this in your own time, and then that's created into a film. And I really want to understand the charity that you've been working with as well, and just to find out a little bit more about what they're doing out there. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so yeah, originally I was meant to be going on a trip to Bosnia with a few people from the course. Basically, if you know Jam's dad, basically during like the Bosnian War, had basically helped to transport hundreds of Muslim families during the war back to Bosnia when they were taking refuge in Serbia. So basically we were going to, I mean, if you don't know much about the war, I didn't before, I had no idea about how recent it was and the atrocities that actually have taken place. It's crazy it hasn't been spoken about more, but we were going to basically go with him and do the route that he did, and sort of visit some of the families on the way to just see what life is like for them now, and just try and get a better idea of what he was doing. And it would have been incredible, but obviously Corona hit, and wasn't able to do it. We will still be doing it, but just not anytime soon. But yeah, so basically I mean, this is not saying anything against anyone who has made a lockdown film about their experience in lockdown, but I feel like I could have done that, but I decided I wanted to try and push myself in a different way and just try to take a different approach on it. So yeah, last September, I actually went on a trip with a charity called Hope and Action, with the owners of the charity. So they basically work in Saranda in Albania. Basically, they work with a lot of the Roma community, a lot of just I mean, the main thing sort of like disabled children, because in Albania the view in society is very if you have a disabled children, it's like an embarrassment, and people don't take their children outside, like if that's the case. So it's like they're just trying to show that it's normal and that it's nothing to be embarrassed by. And it's also sort of like they've got a school for these kids, and like it gives the parents a break from full-time care, because they're very, very mentally and physically disabled. But what else? They also work with a lot of like disadvantaged families who are in serious poverty. It's crazy. But yeah, I never had any intention of. I filmed it just for like myself, really, just like I don't know, personal footage to reflect on. And I went with Holly, Lise, and yeah, we just went to help and I don't know, just experience it. But yeah, no, I had no intention of ever doing anything with the footage. So yeah.
In regards to having that footage, it's quite, you said just at the end that you didn't think you could do anything with it, but now you've done something with it. And I think it's quite nice to be able to tell that story and make that evident that that's going on somewhere in the world. So yeah, it's been a great opportunity that you've been able to use that content, I think, for sure. Have you got anything to mention, Ben? Or?
Yeah, I am just interested, thinking back to the footage. It's clear watching it that you didn't go to film, you went to work with this charity, and it's so warm and genuine, particularly the few moments that you're on camera with people the charity are helping, and it just feels very genuine and really sweet. I was just wondering, you mentioned that there's quite a lot of stigma around the visibility of people with disabilities in Albania. So I was just interested how people found being filmed, particularly within their homes, and not only how did the participants or the people who were filming find it, but knowing that it was something that was quite stigmatized, how did you guys feel beginning to film? What was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite quite nerve-wracking, really, trying to because first of all there's the language barrier, so we're relying on people we're with to sort of translate what we're saying. I mean, we to be honest, the people we have filmed and we have used have been really, really like, well, we found generally people, I thought people would be very against it, but people were really up for being filmed and telling us about how the charity's helped, and like it was really like surprising, but like really, really heartwarming. And it's like, even like some of the footage is just like, with the Roma community especially, I think they're just like, compared to most people in England, it's just such a poor, simple lifestyle, and they've got nothing basically, but they're happy and they're proud. They're so proud of what they've got, and I just wasn't expecting that. It's really, really beautiful to see people so open to showing what their life is like, really.
I remember, me and Seb lived together, and I remember when you came home, I remember that's the first thing that you spoke about with me for about half an hour, was about the people out there being so welcoming, for you to be coming into their homes and kind of like showing the world what their world is like. And you were kind of, you seemed quite like shocked by how welcoming and how they were to you, which is
sure.
Yeah, I think you can tell that with the film a little bit, and how you've shot it. It feels incredibly intimate to the people that live in them areas and them homes, for sure.
Yes.
I'm going to move on to Bridget as well, last but not least. So I think after scenes talking about Seb's film, and his film was something that was edited that he took before lockdown, but it was something that came through lockdown that he edited. Where yours, you've filmed it and edited it and created this piece of work in lockdown. And I know that the film was actually going to be made before then, but you've had to completely adapt it and change the way it was going to be because of the situation that we were in. I'm really interested in the methods of how you've created this film, because obviously, first of all, you haven't got a crew, you're on your own. So I just find it really interesting of how you went about it and what challenges you find along the way.
Yes, so my film was originally going to be made regardless of lockdown. I wanted to make a film about my granddad. I didn't know exactly what, honestly, because it was one of those things where I knew it would come together through the filming and through the editing, but then obviously lockdown happened and I couldn't go and visit my grandma to go and film everything I wanted to film. And for weeks I was like, I don't really know what to do. And then I remember having a conversation with Chris Daniels, who was my tutor, and he was like, why don't you just try and see if you can get your grandma on Skype or something and just have a conversation with her and see what comes of it. And I thought, you know what, yeah, I'll try it. But then I also watched Sarah, I always say her name wrong, Sarah Polley's film, The Stories We Tell, which is a documentary about just finding out who her dad really is and what her mother was actually like, and she interviews her siblings, and I liked that idea. So I thought, you know what, I've got a fair few siblings, let's interview them, let's see if they're all up for it. And I literally just sent a message, put them in a group chat, sent a message to them going, right, are you up for being on Zoom? Can I just do a quick video call with you? I promise it won't be too long or anything like that. And they're like, oh yeah, that's fine. So it was kind of more just, it was easy to organise it with them, but with my grandma I had to ring her up, set a date and a time, had to get my uncle to go around to set up Skype, well it was actually FaceTime for her, because she's really not the best with technology at all. But it was quite nice, because I didn't want to put a lot of pressure on any of them by being I'm going to ask you all these questions. I wanted to sit down, have a conversation with them, and then casually just ask the 3 questions I had for them. And just because I didn't want anyone to feel on edge with it or anything like that, or I didn't want anyone to feel prepared either, if I'm honest, because I wanted it to be what comes to your mind straight away when I ask you about what memories first come to mind about my grandma and granddad. And then with the conversation with my grandma, it kind of just I think the file was a 2-hour long conversation, because we can just talk about anything. So there was a lot of editing in all of them, because they were really long conversations, and I just I knew I wanted to focus it on the memories people brought up originally, and I kind of went through to see what had been brought up by multiple people, and wanted to intercut between them to kind of show that it is these things have impacted us throughout our lives, kind of thing. And then it kind of just slowly came into talking about my granddad and how much he had helped us throughout our lives, and how much he meant to us, because it's kind of one of those things where our family we don't really talk about how much we mean to each other, and it's just how we are. We just don't really talk about how we feel about stuff. So I wanted to kind of make this to kind of show how much they mean to us, if that makes sense. I feel like that might have answered the question. I'm not too sure. I kind of went on a bit.
I think I noticed the there's a gradual increase of those emotions that you were talking about, and the goal of what you were trying to get across. At the start was quite small, but then at the end was quite like a big key part of the film, and it was quite like a really gradual process of the feeling I was feeling when watching the piece. And I think just the added thing of actually putting it on a Zoom call, and it's like when your grandma picked up the camera at the start and it was completely not near her face, and I think just stuff like that, it makes it so much more intimate. And it was just, I think, especially what we're all going through, and the fact is that we're doing this Q&A on a Zoom call right now, it kind of really fitted in with everything, and the whole concept of like memory, and then like bringing your granddad into it, and having all these different people trying to like figure out these memories and stuff. It was just a great way to tell that story, for sure.
Just a quick question, actually, Bridget, and then maybe afterwards, maybe Sophia as well, kind of applies to you. And just thinking of films that really deal with memory, and working in documentary where you don't have the same level of control over what is said. You can't script it, but you have an idea, particularly when it's something you've got quite a connection to, and maybe what you expect people to say, or what you're interested in, things people might say. But it's interested in when you began the film, and you had a really clear idea of what you expected would be said, and if that differed from the things people actually remembered or the things people chose to talk about. I'm quite interested in everyone starts with an idea vaguely of what they want, and just did it go off in a different direction at all?
Well, if we're talking about the memories in particular, like I knew certain things would be brought up because obviously they're the memories I had myself. But like, if I'm honest, I didn't really know what direction it would go in, because it was another case of I knew this film would be made through just what I spoke about and what I captured and talked about with my siblings and stuff, and then through the editing. But if I'm honest, it made it better because there was so many more memories that were brought up that I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And then like I kind of sat there like on the Skype call being like, oh my God, yeah, and then we did this and then we did that. And it was like really nice just being able to, if I'm honest, just talk about our childhood and like talk about all the things that we used to do and things that you didn't remember. But then as soon as someone brings it up, it's just been like, that like image comes back in your mind, and that was probably the nicest part about it. And like it definitely went in a different direction than I thought, but for the better, I think. Yeah,
it's very interesting. Yeah, it's quite nice not knowing where it will end up. Sophia, I know that we had a lot of conversations during the process of making your film, and I found it really interesting piecing together, and the process of piecing together a lot of audio to try and weave a narrative out of that. Can you talk a little bit about that process? This is quite interesting.
Yeah, sure. So like Bridget, I also did interview based. I don't know about you, Bridget. At the end I just had like so much audio that I had to listen to and then mark, okay, this is good, like there's so much good stuff. But in the end, with my film, because the middle section of the film kind of deals with childhood memories from that time of basically a war just finishing and the whole country's split up now, and what kind of do you remember as a child? It doesn't have to be tied to that. So they were all quite random memories. Like some were specifically tied to that time, like some of the slightly older people kind of remember a bit of those feelings, but some were just like me. All I remember is running around with dogs and stuff. So yeah, so actually trying to piece together these memories to form something that flowed and made sense was really hard at first. And I was saying to Ben a lot, it took me weeks to actually get to a point where things fit together, and it wasn't just a random here's a memory, there's a memory. But it was a struggle. That was probably one of the hardest bits, was actually, the interviews are great, I love doing the interviews, but it was just when I sat down I was like, wow, there's a lot of stuff. So yeah, it was a process. It was quite a long one.
I'm guessing as well that to kind of like flip that over to Meg and Matilda as well, you're going to have to I guess if you have already done that, because you've got 5 different people that you've interviewed and it's all sat there, and you're going to have to work out how to put it into a piece of 10-minute content.
It's not going to be 10 minutes.
It's not going to be 10 minutes. I kind of made that decision when I kind of like imported everything, and we were like, well, this is, you know, not going to be how we thought it was going to work out.
It's going to be a feature-length film, let's say.
Well, that's the thing is, with what's gone on as well, I think you've actually got that opportunity now to make that film into something that's long-term, 10-minute film at uni. I kind of personally was like, my boundaries are endless now with what I could do with it, and I haven't got a deadline anymore. So I think with them things in mind, you'll be able to, take it quite far. Sure. I don't know how we're doing for time, Ben.
We're okay. We've probably got 10 minutes or so.
Okay, cool. I think everyone's kind of touched up on it a little bit. I'm just kind of interested on like the whole coronavirus thing as a whole, and how the projects are going to go ahead in that future-wise. Because obviously, let's say like Sophia, you've made your film and it's sat here now, and with Seb and Bridget as well. And then obviously you guys, Meg and Matilda, we're still in the making part of it. So I wonder what's the next step? Where are you going to go with these pieces, and what's the goals out of them in a way? We'll start with Seb.
I mean, it's hard to say, to be honest. I think, yeah, I mean, it's good. It's really good in a way, this lot, because it's shown me that you can work collaboratively at a distance, which might change the way I do projects in the future. Because like, obviously with like Zoom I'd flipping hate Zoom now, because I'd rather see people in person. But it is good because I mean a lot of the projects, Holly and I were apart, and we were editing through like screen sharing live and that sort of thing, and it's been really interesting that you can actually do that. So yeah, I think that would, yeah, I mean in future projects it's really helpful to be able to do that. But yeah, I don't know, it was really it was difficult, very, very difficult doing it in Corona for sure. But yeah.
Imagine. Sophia?
I mean, going onwards with the project that I made, it's definitely not the end. Like, coming to places, I want people to be able to see it. I want to be able to share it with the people. They've seen it, but I want to be able to share it wider with the people who are actually in the documentary, because it's them and talking in the end. I want to make a longer cut. I'd also like to pursue more film work in that area, because I mean a 10-minute film can so much. But obviously with the pandemic, that's going to be, like Seb said, a bit different, especially because I can't go abroad really comfortably at the moment. With that, yes.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I'd love to see a longer version of it and see, these stories of the individuals that you're talking to, like broken down a bit more, and kind of see their individual journeys, instead of like, it's like more like snapshots in it of this one, of like moments and things that they remember. What about Meg and Matilda? What's the plan?
I think get back to Manchester as soon as possible so we can film the last part, edit that together, and then obviously we're going to send it to film festivals. We're going to be able to show it to everyone that's been so supportive for us, like the whole way. We've had such a journey. We've also got Moddy Body that want to see it and want to put it on their website, so it needs to be done for them. We're also could you get that back noise then? Freaked me out. Even myself talking, it freaked me out. We're gonna do a podcast, like a Bleeders podcast. Yeah. So that's really exciting.
If you want to see more of this, then
the
best agony ants.
Yeah, legit.
Yeah.
Well, we were going to do it throughout lockdown, but we were both like not really sure what we were doing. I've gone back to work now, you know, so it's been quite difficult. But in terms of Bleeders, like it's kind of more than just a uni film for us. Like this is something that we want to carry on doing, like creatively. We want to carry it on into a chapter 2 about menopause. There's just this, once you kind of dip your toe in this kind of water about, you know, periods and menstruation, there's so many people doing such amazing work about it, and this community is like super supportive and love to promote each other. We just want to get it finished really for like the people that were in it and anyone that's, you know, been a part of it. So it'll be finished when, hopefully soon. But
I love the idea of making it, you know, carrying it on and talking about other topics. That's a good idea, and the podcast is such a good idea. I love listening to podcasts. It just like fills my day up. Great to. I'd actually generally like sit down and listen to that. So
moaning about everything, we'll just moan about whatever we can.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be really good. I'm excited.
And lastly, Bridget, are you? Is it a finished product or are you gonna?
So like obviously the film that I've got now was just more the short version of it, because I've got so many hours worth of conversation. I am actually going to edit like a longer version. I don't know if it will be a longer version for like public release, but I know it's definitely going to be a longer version for like myself and my family just to watch through, because there's so many great memories that I know that my grandma would love to hear. So that version is probably more just going to be for my grandma, but I don't know, it depends on how it turns out. People might be interested in watching it, we'll see. But I do know I want to, when I can, go down to visit my grandma so I can actually film some like stuff in person. But yeah, that's all I've really got planned for at the moment. I've entered it to a few festivals and all that, but we'll see.
Making it for a family thing is really interesting. I remember making my film on my dad's market stuff in first year, and even though that's just sat there now, my parents really enjoy looking at it because it's kind of like a big memory for them of like what they have been doing and everything. And I think kind of like it kind of locks memories into a time capsule that actually never be forgotten. And I think it's quite a really an incredibly like sweet and creative way of you know keeping these memories, you know, for generations to come. You know.
Yeah. I totally agree, because that was one thing I wanted to do, because it was like I really wish I could show this to my granddad, but I unfortunately can't. So that's why it's so important to me to like get a longer version when I can, just for my grandma, just so that she can hear all this, and then I can pass it on to my kids way in the future and whatnot, just to like show them who we were kind of like were, if you know what I mean.
Definitely, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're just about running out of time. Just I guess a bit of a last kind of question, and anyone can chip in on this at all. Just thinking if this is the second of 3 Q&As focused on documentary, and these are like a real variety of projects in various stages of completion, and also been made in really different ways with different intentions, but they're all documentaries. And I'm just really interested in why documentaries, and why did you choose to work with this mode, or what benefits do you think, how have the projects benefited from being made as a documentary, as opposed to approaching the same issue and working in a different way or in a different mode? And anyone can chip in on that.
I'll say something. I thought, I don't know about others, but I thought I had a bit more, personally, I find I have a bit more like experimental freedom when I make documentary. First of all, I've made more documentaries than I made narrative film. I enjoy making documentaries a bit more. I feel a bit more confident making documentaries because the subject is already there. Sometimes in this case it was. And then I was able to like incorporate, you know, the Super 8 footage, the animation, the VHS, this sort of choppy observational style, and that was like it's almost like it's allowed in that documentary and it still works. But I don't know if I'd be able to. I probably would have, but I don't know how I would approach that same like physical tactileness to, like, say, a narrative version of kids growing up after, you know, a war. So yeah.
I think there's a certain kind of like power that comes with documentary as well. Like, you know, we were able to meet so many incredible people, but it's like, as documentary makers, you have quite a bit of responsibility in terms of how you can present a story, because, you know, you can change the narrative something so quickly in editing, and, you know, it's quite a fun method to play around, and you can kind of get something out of it. Like, I work in both narrative and documentary, but I think it kind of, when you're putting someone else's story out there as well, I think there's a certain, you can feel really, really proud of that, and you're also sharing like a different type of story. It's also just a great way to use filmmaking, and, you know, lots of us love documentaries. But I think for Bleeders, that's how it wouldn't have worked in so much of like a narrative sense, because it was built around people's relationship with their bodies. So we kind of had to do it through that, but it was great. We loved doing it, both of us.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, just real quick, I was just going to say, I think, yeah, I agree with sort of just everyone, like, just being able to tell someone's story is a really, like, important, crucial thing to be able to do. And I think, like, in my instance, where the footage wasn't filmed with intention, it wasn't like narrative where you've planned all the shots and stuff, it was just there. I feel like it sort of allowed it to be really raw and just like just genuine, really, which it just gives people more of an insight into how other people are living. And I think that can be not really, like, not take away from their stories and them, because an approach we were going to do was like doing it from our perspective and how we felt, but then we were like, that's taken away from why we went and the people's stories we're trying to tell. So yeah, I think it's a really useful, amazing tool to be able to use.
Definitely. I think the concept of telling someone's story, as you said just then, Seb, is like so key, and you can grasp so much out of it. If that's like memory-based stuff, if that's for educational-based stuff, I guess telling someone's story can just make anyone aware of any situation that's going on. And I think the stuff that I've done personally and everything that I've watched today, it's you know, you just constantly learning, and I think it's a great way to learn. So yeah, definitely. I think that's about it. So yeah, this is the second part of the of 3 Q&As that we're doing. This week was obviously documentary, which we've just spoke about for the past like half an hour. But on Thursday we have our last one, which is some of the art installations that would have been shown throughout the course. I've just got to say thank you to, first of all, Ben. He's kind of like helped me through all this and trying to like work out how to put this all together. So big up Ben for doing that. I've got to also thank you, these guys, as well, because they've been really kind to come on and out of their own time to come and have a chat about their films and stuff like that. So thank you, everyone. So yeah, and we'll see everyone on Thursday. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys.